The dog wouldn't stop. 3 days straight, through wind, rain, and now snow, he returned to the same warped barn door, pawing, whining, sometimes growling low like he knew something was trapped inside. Sheriff Mara Holt figured it was just muscle memory from a scent trail long gone. But when she finally pulled the rusted latch and opened the door wide, the smell hit first, then the silence, then the eyes. In the shadows, a small boy stared up at her from behind an overturned feeding trough. Filthy, barefoot, alive, and no one had ever reported him missing. The snow had crusted over by morning. It crackled under Sheriff Mara Holt's boots as she walked the path out past the old Sycamore farm, her breath puffing in short white bursts. Beside her, Bramble, the shepherd lab mix with more scars and manners, trotted low to the ground, tail stiff, ears alert. He was pulling again. "Bram, you sure?" she muttered. "There's nothing out here but rot and memories." But the dog kept going, zigzagging with intent. They crested the rise, and the barn came into view, a slanted, decaying silhouette against the sky, going from bruised purple to gray. Rust flaked off the tin roof. The old horse paddock was half swallowed by snow. No one had been here in years. And yet, the dog scratched, just like yesterday, just like the day before. Mara's gloved hand wrapped around the door handle. The wood was swollen from the weather. The latch brittle. She pulled hard. It gave with a shriek. The air that rushed out was sour. Old hay, urine, damp wood, and something else, human, faint but wrong. "Stay," she whispered to Bramble. Though he didn't listen, he darted past her boots and into the dark. The inside of the barn was choked with junk. Broken fencing, rusted tack, an old ATV missing its wheels. She moved slow, flashlight cutting through the murk. Straw crunched under her boots. Then she heard it, a soft shift, like fabric against wood. Her beam passed over a half-collapsed wall, then landed on a shadow behind an overturned feed trough. She froze. 2 eyes stared back at her, wide, glassy, alive. "Jesus," she breathed. "Kid." No answer. He didn't flinch. He just crouched lower, arms wrapped around his knees, shivering. She stepped forward slowly, unhooking her radio. "Dispatch. I need medical at the old Sycamore barn. Found a child." The boy hissed, animal-like. Then he darted, barefoot, across the stall and into the corner. Bramble barked, but didn't chase. Mara dropped to one knee. Hey, easy. You're okay. No one's going to hurt you." His hair was matted and long, almost to his shoulders. His face was gaunt, lips cracked, clothes hanging loose on his bones. But what stopped her cold was the silence. No words, no sound beyond his breath. "Do you have a name?" she tried. "Nothing. I'm Mara, Sheriff." She motioned gently to her chest. "That's Bramble. He's loud, but he's good." Still nothing. She unzipped her jacket and pulled out the thermal blanket from her kit. The boy's eyes followed it like a wild thing watching bait. She laid it on the straw, then backed off. He moved slow, cautious, but eventually took it, curling up like he'd done this before. 2 hours later. Sycamore Medical Clinic. Dr. Connie Eves looked up from the boy's chart with a face like stone. No bruising. No fresh injuries. Malnourished, yes, severely, but hydrated, like someone gave him water daily. Kept him barely functional. Mara leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "He speak?" Not a word, not even a crier in the 4. "What are we thinking? 6 years old?" "Closer to 8, Connie said. "Body's underdeveloped. Trauma will do that." Mara rubbed her temple. "There's no missing kid reported anywhere in 2 states that fits." "Which means someone's lying," Connie said. "Or someone's really, really good at hiding." Later that evening, Mara's office, Calhoun County Sheriff's Department. The boy sat in the corner, wrapped in a thick fleece. No cuffs, no restraints. Just a stuffed dog, Bramble's chew toy in his lap. He clutched it like it had history. Mara sat across the room, letting silence do the work. That's what her dad used to say. You don't wring the truth from people. You wait for it to drip out. She studied him. His eyes never left the floor. Want water? She asked softly. Or juice? He blinked, then slowly nodded. She stood and poured a paper cup, walked it over, and crouched. He didn't take it from her hand, not directly, but waited until she set it on the floor. Then he snatched it fast and drank in short gulps. Okay, she said. That's something. She stayed there, close but not crowding. People are looking into where you came from. Until then, you're safe here. That's a promise. He looked up for the first time, and there, beneath the dirt and wild hair, something moved behind his eyes. Not relief, not fear, recognition. He knew something she didn't. The next morning, County Records Office. Mara was elbow deep in old files when Deputy Cole Lanning poked his head in. You're not going to find a birth certificate under mysterious barn kid, he said. She didn't laugh. Any word from missing persons? Every agency I called gave the same answer. No matches. No reports. Kid doesn't exist. What about the land? Cole scratched his neck. Used to belong to Albert Sycamore. Died 12 years ago. No family. No recent property sales. Then someone squatting. He nodded. Barn had signs of recent use. Hay drag marks. Clean buckets under the stall drain. Mara stared at the dusty ledger in front of her. He was being kept, she said, but not locked in, like someone wanted him found, or wanted him forgotten and something changed. That afternoon, motel lot, edge of town. Mara stood outside room 6, tapping her pen on her notepad. The motel owner, a chain-smoking woman named Darla, frowned behind her glasses. Saw the kid once. Maybe 2 weeks back, Darla said. Didn't look homeless. Just quiet. Stayed close to the man he was with. What man? Tall. Heavy-set. Ball cap. Never gave a name. Paid cash. Asked for a roomway in the back. I didn't ask questions. You ever see them leave together? Darla took a long drag on her cigarette. Nope. But one morning the man left alone. Didn't come back. Mara's pulse picked up. When was that? Darla pointed toward the woods. For days ago. Same day Bramble started scratching at the barn door. That night, Sheriff's Department. Holding room. Bramble lay curled up near the boy's feet. Mara sat nearby, sipping coffee gone cold. He was calmer now. Still mute but alert. She decided to try something new. Tell you what, she said. I'll show you a picture. You shake your head yes or no. She slid a printout across the table. A mugshot. Grady Murch. Heavy set. Ball cap. History of petty theft. A restraining order from a woman in Oregon. Arrested a year ago for transporting unlicensed medication. The boy stared. His breathing changed. He didn't nod. He didn't speak. He just pushed the photo away and curled back into the blanket. But Mara saw it. His hands were trembling. Elsewhere, abandoned farmhouse, 10 miles south. The man sat at the edge of the bed, staring at an old phone that wouldn't ring. He was sweating despite the cold. His knuckles were scabbed, his breath sharp. He muttered to himself, fingers twitching. They found him. Dog brought M. Should have buried it all deeper. He stood, paced, looked toward the barn boots caked in mud by the door. Then he reached into the floorboards and pulled out a folder thick with papers. Photos, a journal, receipts, all of it, gone if he burned it. But he didn't. He stared at one photo in particular. The boy younger, smiling faintly in a cluttered kitchen. He whispered, I kept my end. You weren't supposed to leave. Then he grabbed a duffel and the folder and vanished into the dark. The storm rolled in by noon. Wind howled across the plains like it had a name and a score to settle. Sheriff Mara Holt squinted through the glass of her office, watching tree limbs sway and traffic lights twitch. Somewhere behind her, a fax machine stuttered, one of the last in the county that still worked. She didn't turn. She didn't move. Her eyes stayed locked on the boy in the next room. Curled beneath a wool blanket, Bramble pressed warm against his side. There was a bond forming, not loud or dramatic, but quiet, primal, like they'd both come out of the same dark place. Mara whispered, Who are you, kid? The fax chirped again. This time, She moved. Inside the fax room, the printout was grainy, torn with lines and halftones, but she could still read the name. Daniel Ezra Holt. Born May 3rd, 2017. Died October 9th, 2019. Her heart stopped. Holt. The last name wasn't uncommon, but something in her gut twisted as she read it again. Born in Ashburn County. Mother, Leslie and Whitman. Father, unknown. She reached for the attached certificate. Official notice of death, Ashburn County Medical Examiner. Cause, accidental drowning. She swallowed hard. If this boy is Daniel, he died 6 years ago. An hour later, Dr. Connie Eve's office. Run the DNA again, Mara said. Run it twice. Connie blinked behind her glasses. Mara, that's government issued. Chain of custody. Already processed. Then I want a second opinion. Private lab. I'll pay. Connie leaned forward. You think the kid's not who they say he is? No, Mara said, voice low. I think he's exactly who they say, and someone faked his death to make sure no one ever looked for him. Connie's eyes darkened. You think this is about you? I don't know, Mara whispered, but there's a file with my last name and a boy with my eyes sitting 2 rooms away. For years earlier. Case file, confidential, Ashburn County. Subject, Leslie and Whitman. Background, mother of 1. History of mental illness. Multiple temporary holds under 5150. Partner left prior to childbirth. Child, Daniel Ezra Whitman Holt. Notes, custody deemed unstable. Subject relocated multiple times over 2 years. Final address listed was a halfway home. Drowning ruled accidental. No autopsy requested. Body released without state confirmation. Mara sat with the file open, hand clenched around the edge. It was all there, names, dates, a closed case with barely any scrutiny. A mother no one believed. A death no one verified. And a child no one ever tried to find. Back in the holding room. The boy stirred when Mara entered. His face was cleaner now, his hands no longer shaking, but he still hadn't said a word. Bramble raised his head but didn't move. His tail thumped softly. The boy's fingers stayed tangled in the dog's fur. Mara sat not across from him, beside, quiet, present. You knew her, didn't you? She asked softly. Leslie. No response. But something in the boy's breathing changed. I think she was trying to protect you. I don't know from what, but I think someone made her disappear, just like they tried with you. She pulled a photograph from her coat, grainy, printed off from a file. A woman, late 20s, smile frayed at the corners. Blonde, eyes wide and nervous. This your mom? He blinked, looked away, but not before Mara saw it. The flicker, recognition, and pain. 30 minutes later. Edge of county rural gas station. The clerk leaned over the counter, squinting at the photo. Yeah, I seen him. Came in a few times, bought jerky and smokes. Never spoke much. Alone? Mara asked. Nah. Had a kid with him sometimes. Skinny, kept his head down. One time I said something like, cute son, and the guy just stared like I'd kicked his dog. Mara's jaw tensed. This was last week? Closer to 2. They were headed west toward the old timber trail. That trail led nowhere. Not anymore. Just a line of abandoned mining cabins in the gorge. Mara nodded once. Thanks. Back in the truck. Driving into the pines. Bramble whined softly from the back seat. The boy sat beside him, bundled, eyes wide but quiet. You okay? Mara asked. He didn't nod, didn't speak. Just reached out, slowly, and placed his hand on her sleeve. A touch, not a word, but it said something else. Trust, maybe. Fragile and new. Mara felt the weight of it. Timber Trail Gorge, dusk. The snow came again just as they reached the tree line. Mara left the truck hidden behind a rock outcropping and led the way on foot. Bramble took point, his nose low, pace urgent. The boy followed, eyes fixed ahead like he knew where they were going. The wind rose, sharp through pines. Then a flicker of movement. Smoke. thin and silver, rising from behind an old miner's shed. Mara signaled for quiet. They moved slow. Bramble growled, low and tight. Then came the creak of boots on wood. And the voice. "You followed him, huh?" Grady Murch stepped from the shed, hand tucked inside his coat. His beard was longer now, eyes glassy. "You never were supposed to find him," he said. She was supposed to let go. Mara's hand hovered over her weapon. "You faked a child's death. Stole him. Why?" Grady snorted. "He was mine, too." Mara blinked. "You? Leslie never told you?" "Figures. All high and mighty, you left. Moved on." "She didn't." "You're lying." "She got sick, Mara. Started saying things. People were after her. You think anyone listened?" "I did. I protected him. I kept him safe." "You kept him in a barn," she snapped. His voice cracked. "Because I didn't have a choice." The boy stepped out from behind the rock. Bramble tried to block him, but he moved past. Grady's eyes went wide. "Daniel," he whispered. The boy stopped just short. "I gave up everything for you," Grady said. "I didn't hurt you. I fed you. The boy finally spoke. Quiet, raspy. "You hit her." Grady's jaw clenched. "You don't remember." "I remember," the boy said. Mara's heart thudded. The child stared at the man in front of him, no longer trembling. "You said she was crazy. But you were the one with the lock on the door." Grady took a step forward, then froze. Because Bramble lunged, teeth bared, low growl rumbling. "Don't," Mara said. Her hand was on her sidearm now. "You so much as breathe wrong. I swear to God." Grady's hands rose slowly. "He's mine." "No," she said. "He never belonged to you." 2 hours later. Sheriff's Department. Interrogation room. Grady sat cuffed, silent. A recorder clicked on. "You want a lawyer?" Mara asked. He said nothing. "You're being charged with kidnapping, child endangerment, obstruction of a death investigation, and possibly more once we find out what happened to Leslie Whitman." Still nothing. Mara leaned in close. "She didn't just vanish, did she?" Grady looked up and smiled. "A woman like that? No one even looked." Later that night, the boys sat in the break room, drinking cocoa too slowly, eyes glassy with exhaustion. Mara stood across from him, her voice soft. "Do you remember anything else?" He shook his head. But then, after a pause, he reached into the pocket of his coat and pulled out a photo. Crumpled, water-damaged. A woman, smiling at the camera, and a little boy in her arms. On the back, scrawled in pen, "His name is Daniel. If something happens to me, find Mara. She's his aunt." Mara stared at the words, throat closing. "Aunt," she repeated. The boy, Daniel, looked up. "I didn't forget," he whispered, then leaned into her side. And this time, she didn't hold back. She held him like someone who'd been missing for far too long. Mara had learned long ago that some truths don't roar when they surface. They whisper. The house was quiet now, wind pressing gently against the windows like someone trying not to wake the dead. In the guest bedroom, Daniel slept curled beside Bramble, one hand tangled in the dog's coat. His face, softer in sleep, reminded Mara of someone she used to know. Herself, maybe, or Leslie, before the shadows took over. Mara watched him for a long time. Then she turned off the hall light and made the call. "Put me through to Ashburn County," she said. "Unsolved cold cases. I need to talk about a woman who died too quietly." The next morning, Ashburn County Courthouse, Records Department. The folder came from the basement, faded, mislabeled, half-eaten by silverfish. Leslie and Whitman. Closed case, no further action. Mara flipped through it, heart sinking. Sparse notes. One neighbor's statement. No witness follow-up. Cause of death. Suicide by overdose. No autopsy. No toxicology. Body cremated. But a single photo was stapled to the back. Leslie's last known image. She was looking sideways, not at the camera, at someone else. Her jaw was set, mouth drawn tight. One hand rested on a child's shoulder, just out of frame. Daniel. Mara traced the edge of the photo with her finger. "You were trying to tell someone," she whispered. But nobody was listening. That afternoon, back in Calhoun County, interrogation room, Grady Murch was still silent. His lawyer sat beside him now, eyes heavy with disinterest. Public defender. Overworked. Underpaid. No hope of wringing sympathy from a man like Grady. Mara slid the photo across the table. "You remember this?" Grady didn't look. "I want a deal." "You don't get one." He smirked. "You want the body, don't you?" Mara didn't blink. "You buried her." "She was losing it," he said, voice colder now. "Said they were watching. Said the boy was in danger. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat. I took care of things." "You killed her." "No," he said. "I just made sure no one came asking after she was gone." He finally looked at the photo, and for a moment his smile cracked. "I loved her," he muttered. "She just didn't believe it." That night, back at the barn, snow had melted where Bramble kept digging, just past the horse stall, beneath a warped plank. Mara stood there now, watching as the forensic crew pulled up sodden boards, shovels biting the soil. Bramble paced behind her, anxious, whining softly. Daniel waited in the patrol truck, watching through fog glass. It didn't take long. Just past the second foot of earth, the shovel struck something soft, a canvas duffel. Inside, bone fragments wrapped in a faded scarf. The same print Leslie wore in the photo. Mara stepped back, air hollow in her chest. They had her, 2 days later. Sheriff's office. Private interview room. Daniel sat on the floor, knees tucked, Bramble pressed close. Mara kneeled beside him. "We found her," she said. He didn't move. "She didn't leave you. She didn't give up." He looked at her, eyes clearer now, but too old for his age. "I know," he said. "Simple. Steady. And you're my aunt?" Mara nodded, swallowing a lump that had lodged deep since the first time she saw his face. "I didn't know. I would have come for you. Daniel, I swear." He looked down. "She always talked about you. Said you were brave. That you used to catch snakes with your hands and climb trees the boys couldn't." Mara let out a quiet breath. "I was smaller then. She said you left when she needed you." The words hit hard. Mara blinked back the sting. "Yeah," she whispered. She was right. Daniel looked up again. "But you came now." He reached out, not shy this time. His fingers closed around hers. That was the moment it changed. Not with shouting or tears, but with quiet, earned forgiveness. 1 week later. Court hearing. Calhoun County Courthouse. Grady Murch was denied bail. Mara didn't attend. Neither did Daniel. The prosecutors had more than enough. The child statement, the fake death certificate, the unreported body buried beneath his own barn. They were even pulling old witness statements. Women who remembered Leslie crying in the parking lot, black eyes hidden beneath sunglasses. It wouldn't be fast or clean, but it would hold. That evening, Wheat Hollow, Leslie's old trailer. No one had touched the place in years. Mara stood in the doorframe, flashlight beam dancing across piles of old toys, moldy books, half-torn photos. A baby shoe, a birthday card unsigned. She found the back room, closet door ajar. Inside, a shoebox wrapped in duct tape. She sat cross-legged on the faded rug and peeled it open. Photos. Dozens. Daniel as a toddler. Leslie smiling in bursts. Flickering joy captured on cheap film. Notes scrawled in shaky pen. He talks to himself, but I think it's singing. Mara would laugh. Daniel eats spaghetti with his hands. And one short letter. "If anyone ever find this and find him, please tell my sister I never stopped trying. I did everything I could. Forgive me." Mara folded the paper slowly, stared at it through blurry eyes. "Me too," she said. 2 weeks later. Hope Family Property, Pine Acres Road. The snow was gone now, replaced by the wet green of March. In the field behind her parents' old place, Daniel threw a stick and watched Bramble chase it, tail wagging, tongue out. He laughed for the first time. It was small, uneven, but real. Mara stood at the porch steps, arms folded, heart full of something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Daniel turned to her. He's kind of dumb, he said, pointing at Bramble. Mara raised an eyebrow. He brought you home. Daniel smiled. I guess he's kind of a genius. They sat together that evening under the cottonwood tree, quiet except for wind and the hum of frogs in the creek. Daniel leaned against her shoulder. Are we family now? He asked. Mara didn't hesitate. We always were. Final scene. Grady's prison intake. Third floor holding. He stood at the window, staring out at the yard. Chain-link fences, gray sky. Nothing but concrete and regret. An officer walked in. Visitor. Grady scoffed. Who the hell would come here? The door opened. A lawyer. Unknown. Thin glasses. Calm voice. I'm here on behalf of Daniel Holt. The man said. He's asked the court to deliver a message. Grady tilted his head. The lawyer opened a small envelope. Inside, a photo. Daniel and Bramble. Mara in the background, mid-laugh. A picnic blanket spread under the trees. On the back, one line written in sharp, clear pen. You don't win. Grady's hand shook. The lawyer left without another word. Epilogue. 1 year later. Town library story time. Daniel sat cross-legged on the carpet. Bramble beside him, tail thumping with every page turned. A group of younger kids surrounded them, listening intently as he read. Mara leaned against the doorway, arms folded. Dr. Connie Eve stood beside her. He's a different kid. No, Mara said. He's just finally becoming who he was always supposed to be. And outside, beyond the hill, the wind carried spring in soft, forgiving waves.